This is Axel Rudakubana. He's recently sentenced to a minimum of 51 years and 190 days for the murder of 3 young girls and the attempted murder of 10 other people. On the 29th of July 2024, 17-year-old Rudakubana left his home and walked a distance to a bus stop where he called a taxi using a false name, Simon. He then travelled in that taxi to Southport, to the Heart Space, where he knew there was going to be a workshop. He had with him a 20-centimetre long kitchen knife that he'd bought off the internet on the 13th of July, using a false name on Amazon to purchase that, to hide his identity. He used the taxi, got out of the taxi without paying. He knew there was a Taylor Swift themed yoga and dance workshop attended by young girls, mostly aged between 6 and 11. There were 26 children in total at that party. So, 11:45, Rudakubana arrives in the taxi. He gets out of the taxi without paying and he walks straight into the building. He walks up the stairs where the workshop is taking place. His intention was to murder as many young children as he possibly could. He wanted to carry out a mass killing of innocent, young, happy girls who were going about a fun workshop. Over the next 15 minutes, he killed 3 of them and attempted to kill 8 more, as well as 2 adults who tried to intervene to stop him. It was only because some managed to escape the building, fight back, that it prevented more killings. He murdered Elsie Stancombe, aged 7 years, Bebe King, aged 6 years, and Alice da Silva Aguiar, aged 9 years. He murdered Elsie. He inflicted at least 85 sharp force injuries to her head, face, neck, torso, and upper body. Severe force was used to cause her death. To Bebe, he inflicted at least 122 sharp force injuries to her head, face, neck, torso, and upper limbs. It was the opinion of the pathologist that he attempted to decapitate her. And to Alice, he stabbed her, including a chop wound to her head and 4 stab wounds to her back, causing substantial internal injuries. Although she managed to escape, she then received medical attention, went to hospital. Unfortunately, she lost her fight for life the following day. The judge concluded at his trial that Rudakubana had planned to kill as many people as he could on that day. He wanted to carry out a mass killing. He brought a sharp pointed knife to the scene, identical to this one which was found at his address. He read information on the internet how to stab people, how to get away with killing. He saw publicity for a children's party in Southport, and he specifically targeted that to try and kill as many people as he possibly could, particularly young children. Whilst under arrest, Rudakubana told police he was glad children had died and described it as a good thing. He was only 9 days short of his 18th birthday when he carried out the brutal attacks. Had he been 18 years, he would have had imposed on him a whole life term that would mean he would never be released. But because he wasn't 18, that couldn't be imposed. So, what else do we know about Rudakubana? He has a conviction, aged 13, for possessing a knife. And in fact, there were other occasions where he was known to carry a knife. As a result of that conviction, he was subject to a juvenile referral order. We also know that there were devices taken from Rudakubana's address, which included images of dead people, victims of torture, beheading, cartoons depicting killings, violence, and sexual assaults. In fact, he also had items and documentations relating to religions, including Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. He downloaded a military studies, the Jihadists against the Tyrants, an Al-Qaeda training manual, which contained advice and instructions on how to commit acts of terror. Police also established that Rudakubana had made ricin in his bedroom. Ricin is a toxin that can be taken into the body by injection, and inhalation that will potentially result in death. as a result of multiple organ failure or acute respiratory distress. There's no antidote for ricin, and only a very small amount is necessary to be fatal. Rudakubana pleaded guilty to 2 terror-related offences. But there's some serious failings by the authorities because Rudakubana came to the attention of the authorities' anti-extremism prevention programme. This is designed to stop people becoming radicalised at a young age. Well, the question now is, was this a terrorist attack? I would say yes. The evidence was there. He had manual, he had an Al-Qaeda manual, he had documentation that showed his extremism views, both in terms of religion as well as violence and attacks. He was interested in previous attacks, he was interested in the MI5, he was interested in all of the aspects around the IRA and the Middle East. This is an individual who particularly searched out terrorism attacks. Yet the decision was, because they couldn't prove his motivation, because he wouldn't communicate why he'd done these attacks, that was felt wasn't sufficient to fulfill the law in relation to terrorism. The reality is that sadly this will happen again. Why? Well, because we never learn lessons. Politicians, individuals come out and say, we will learn the lessons from this, the mistakes that we made, and they did make mistakes. How is it someone can be referred to the PREVENT programme 3 separate times when they had the knowledge of his behaviour, the knowledge of his actions? He would carry a knife. They failed to bring him properly under that programme to stop the radicalisation. No one will be held to account because that's not what happens in this country. People make mistakes, people get things wrong, I understand that. But when the failings are of a programme, of the authorities, of individuals, there has to be accountability. We have to hold people responsible, but nobody will be. Could these killings have been prevented? I think the answer is yes. Sadly, it will happen again. In weeks' time, months' time, years' time. I don't know when, but it will happen again. And sadly, we learn no lessons